Hey folks, so if you've watched my first video, I kind of talked about how I transitioned from help desk to SRE in 5 years and a couple of things that I upscaled at on each job. So I'll briefly talk about that and I'll tell you why I'm in this moment. So firstly, when I was in help desk, upskilled in servers and then moved on to sysadmin, learned Linux and firewall, moved on to junior SRE, learned Kubernetes and DevOps related tools. So now I work as a SRE for IBM Cloud and the IBM Cloud production team. So, Kubernetes is, I'm still upskilling in Kubernetes, and then now I want to move on to GPU stuff, right? Because, see, like you have a big number of people who do AIML, GPU, like AIML, GPU engineers, and people make different kind of models and they run many things, right? But what happens is, in the traditional compute world, right? So you have big production clusters of there's thousands of servers, and then to manage them, you need a production engineer, you need an SRE because it's just the way how it works, right? Like, to ensure that your production is running fine, to make sure that your servers have been running efficiently, you automate as many things as you can, you ensure availability, reliability, and all the things that SRE comes with, right? So now what's happening is you see this industry shift where people have this insane GPU clusters, right? So as of now, only big companies have this, like Meta, X, OpenAI, where they have big production clusters of thousands of GPU instances. But eventually, you'll see more and more companies adopting GPU hardwares, and you'll have those GPU clusters, right? Like people running production in GPU machines. So you will need an SRE who knows how to manage a production cluster of GPU machines because these are completely different type of hardwares. So you need to know what you're working with. That's why I'm I'm thinking of learning about GPU AIML from an SRE perspective. So I'm creating this video and then eventually a video series where I'll learn more and more about GPU stuff. And I am very new to this industry too. I will be learning everything from scratch. So that brings me to the first topic for today, which is GPU providers. So, to be able to work with GPU, you need a GPU machine. For that, you need to know your providers, right? So I'll briefly talk about a couple of providers that I've been playing around with. Firstly, it will be CoreWeave. So CoreWeave is a hyperscaler, right? So, it's quite amazing actually. I've heard amazing things about it, but I haven't had an opportunity to play with it because you can't just go and create an account with CoreWeave. You have to, contact us. You have to fill the info on contact us. A couple of information here they want to learn beforehand, like what are you planning to use CoreWeave for? How many GPUs do you want to use? What country you're based, and so on. So I filled this few days back, and I'm waiting to hear back from them. Hopefully, I'll get to play around with CoreWeave. So that's one example. And then the other example is our traditional cloud providers like GCP, IBM Cloud, Azure, AWS, and so on. And then the other provider is Vast.ai and RunPod, right? So I'm going to close CoreWeave because I have no access to it. So I will show you how I provision GPU machines and all these three providers, and I'll briefly talk about the differences of them, right? So let's go with GCP first. Let's go create instance, and then you get to select like what kind of GPU you want, the number of GPUs. Essentially, you select the hardware spec and reasons and so on. So I'm going for a GPU, and I'll just keep everything default for now, just to just as an example. Okay, so we have NVIDIA T4, and then number of GPU is going to be 1. Yep, I'm happy with that. Just go create, right? So while I'm waiting here, I'll go ahead on Vast.ai. So you see when I'm in Vast.ai, you see a bunch of GPU machines here, right? Based on different reason. And then, like a couple of filter options here, what kind of GPU you need. So keeping everything default now. Let's see, I'll provision something closer to Europe based to my geolocation. So I see these are my options right now, and then RTX 3060. So let me provision a machine in UK. So let me go, okay, you can select a couple of templates. I'll change this template to a default Ubuntu template. So that's the Ubuntu 22.04. And then let me select this RTX 4060 rent. Okay. So requesting, and then now I'll come to RunPod, and in RunPod, so I will select a pod here, and let me select, okay, NVIDIA latest generation RTX Pro 6000. Yep, just gonna select that, and then you have your template again, and a couple of options. So yeah, keeping everything default. So I'll go deploy on demand and provision, I started provisioning in all three different providers, right? So see this example here that my provisioning in GCP has failed. So if I check the error message, it says that that particular instance is unavailable in that zone, retry again with a different kind of hardware spec, right? So that was my previous provisioning, and that failed too. And coming back to my Vast.ai, it says instance created. Okay, so let's go to instance option here, and let's see that is it actually created. Okay, so it's making progress. We can see that here, right? It's created. That's the intended status. And I have gotten a public IP, so there's a disk assigned, and yeah, probably it takes a while, right? So you see that it does take some time for the provisioning to actually go through. Now let's see here in RunPod, I see my pod is actually already available, right? So let me try and SSH to it. Go terminal, and then so let's just paste that there. Oops, let me just clear that. Okay, boom. So NVIDIA-SMI. There we go. I have a running GPU pod through, let's close that for now, through RunPod, right? So my Vast.ai is still saying it's starting, it's not created yet. So let me just refresh that. And then in GCP, it has failed, right? So no progress in GCP at all. RunPod, super quick. Vast.ai, it's still showing it's still on starting state. So couple of minutes for the provisioning to happen. I'll talk about why these things and which provider that I will choose, and for the reasons of why am I choosing that providers. So let me open this guy here, and let's move on. So we briefly talked about 4 providers here, right? CoreWeave, yet to explore. It's a GPU hyperscaler. It comes with a lot of features, so I'm really interested to try CoreWeave, but let's see if they want me as a customer or not, right? So that's one kind of the drawback, that you don't get to start straight away. And then I will go back to your to the traditional cloud providers like GCP, AWS, Azure, and IBM. It's really hard to find what instances are available. You can't really see beforehand what's available, right? Like for example, when I go to create my machine here, when I select that option, create instance, I didn't really see what instances are available in what region, right? It just gives me the option to create my machine, but it doesn't tell me beforehand that hey, listen, in that region you have that machine, use that instead. Nope. So kind of a bummer, isn't it? And then about RunPod, so we saw that it's super easy to find, right? So you just go pods, and then you go deploy, and then it already tells you that what instances are available, right? So it says it's in low availability, it's medium availability, and so on. And then the provisioning was really fast. Actually, it was the fastest. But a couple of things, right? So you're running a GPU pod, you're not running a GPU, hardware bare metal per se. So you're running a pod that has GPU access. That's why it's really fast provision. And then it's good for quick experiments. That's what I've known so far. You have less control of the hardware itself because you have a pod access, right? You can't control the hardware OS, you can control the kernel, you can control what kind of drivers you want there, and so on. You can run whatever OS you want on the pod, but it's still a pod. It's not an entire machine. So doesn't really suit my purpose now, because I'm trying to learn about GPU machines from an infrastructure perspective. So still quite amazing. Probably solves a lot of use cases, but not mine, right? So for me, the best one that I see right now would be Vast.ai. So we saw that we can see what's available. right? So when you go to instances, we saw that it'll kind of give you an option to so that what kind of machines are available, and then you get a full bare metal GPU machine. That's why it takes a bit longer to provision. You can set up networking flexibility. You get dedicated public IP, so that's what I'm talking about. You have I'll come back to the networking flexibility. So, and we saw that, let me go here and oops, okay, let me go back to my console. And then, like, it does not has as many features as traditional cloud providers, but you get more hardware control. So what I mean by not many features as cloud providers is like, when you go to cloud providers, you can create a load balancer. You can, create like a virtual endpoints, many options that like this cloud providers comes with, right? So Vast.ai essentially only allows you to create one GPU machine, and then it has some storage options, but you cannot create something like a virtual private cloud, group all of those machines within one private network, and then have a load balancer on the top, make those server environment communicate to outside world using that load balancer, have firewalls on top of it, all of these things, right? So these things are not in Vast.ai, but still, it solves my use case right now. So easy to find. Yep, pick a reason. You see what machines are available. Better for long running jobs. You see the maximum amount of time that you can like reserve it for yourself. Pricing is quite decent to be honest. So, and you get more hardware control because like you own the hardware, right? Essentially, and then I can run any OS that I want. I can install any kernel. I can install any drivers. Essentially, I can do anything. It's my bare metal machine, right? So, and then coming back to the networking stuff, what happens is, so let me go to search and then change template, and then my templates. So let me go edit here. So what I mean by having more network flexibility is that, see, you can expose a lot of ports here, right? So you might need like all of these ports for many number of regions, right? Like for example, down the line, you eventually build your applications, you want them to expose in certain port, you need that, and so on. And why do I have to expose these ports in advance is that after I create my machine, if I only have port 22 and 443 exposed, I cannot expose further ports. It has to be defined beforehand. That's what I noticed with Vast.ai. So that's why I have just this, like n number of ports exposed, just in case I need it for any future use. And I'll show you some default template, right? So if you look at this default Ubuntu 22, you see these ports are exposed, right? Just in case if you need more ports, just expose them beforehand. And so now I have a running instance here as well. So if I want to connect, so it will just say, yep, let me copy that, and then let's go to terminal, and then so let's get connected there, and there we go. I have root access to the OS machine, and if I go NVIDIA-SMI, and then I'll see my GPU details. That tells me, okay, my GPU machine is working and what's going on inside. So nothing's going on now because I haven't done anything. So yeah, that's what I want to talk about in this video. So I think I will be making further videos, and I will be experimenting further things with Vast.ai. If I get access to CoreWeaves, I really want to try CoreWeaves because like all of the features that I mentioned with the traditional cloud providers, a lot of features are there in CoreWeaves. And then like we'll be playing around with RunPod too. We'll see like what kind of experiments does it really suit better. And yeah, that's all. Thank you for watching the video.